Namaste and good morning everyone. We'll start our class with the prayers. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now we'll chant Mahamrityunjaya mantra 3 times to pray for those who are in suffering. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everyone. We'll start our Gita class. So today we will have the verse number 29 and 30, and that is what finishes the section on Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga, and this will be the end of this current course as well. Next class would be the final class of the current course, and there we will have a summary of all the verses of Gita we have studied so far. So starting, I'll chant this verse one quarter at a time and you repeat after me. Ashcharyavat pashyati kaschidinam Ashcharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah. Ashcharyavacchainamanyah shrunoti. Shrutvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit. I'll repeat the whole verse now. Ashcharyavat pashyati kaschidinam Ashcharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah Ashcharyavacchainamanyah shnoti Shrutvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit. So Ashcharyavat is an indeclinable, Pashyati is a verb form, Kaschit would be, so Kaschit is made of two things, Kaha and Chit. Kaha is nominal pronoun, so we can take the whole thing as nominal pronoun. Enam, it's a nominal pronoun. Ashcharyavat, indeclinable. Vadati, verb. Tatha, indeclinable. Eva is indeclinable. Cha is indeclinable. Anya is nominal pronoun. Ashcharyavat is again indeclinable. Cha is indeclinable. Enam is pronoun. Anya is pronoun. Shnoti is verb. Shrutva is indeclinable. Api is indeclinable. Enam is nominal pronoun. Veda is verb. Cha is indeclinable. Na is indeclinable. Cha is also indeclinable. Eva is also indeclinable. And Kashchit, we can say nominal pronoun. Here the word chit is particle, and that does not change, but kaha, that changes. So chit can be used after any declensions of kim. Being in indeclinable, it will only have the meaning. So here again it is made of a suffix called vat, and vat means like. Ashcharya is a word called wonder, so like a wonder. Pashyati is a verb. So this is a simple verb, present tense, third person, singular. It's an parasmaipadi verb, and root here is drush, means to see. So this one would become, the total meaning would become sees. One sees. Kashchit. So Kashchit is, there is a pronoun called interrogative pronoun. So here, for example, kaha means who, and when we put chit after that, it becomes kashchit, and that means someone, as an indefinite kind of thing. And that's how you can put chit after any of the pronoun forms. So kashchit means someone, like no specific person. So kashchit would mean someone. Enam, that pronoun we have discussed many times. So this is the it is the accusative singular of idam, referring to something nearby. This, and this is used when you are describing, if you are referring to something which is already described. So far there has been a lot of description of the self in the previous verses, or atma, and that's what Lord is referring to here. So here the case, I'll put nominative, singular, masculine, and base word is kim and chit. So the declensions are only here part kim, kaha, not chit. So just wanted to let you know. Enam would be accusative, singular, masculine, and base word here is idam, means this referring to the self. or Atman. Ashcharyavat. Again, it is the same word coming here. So here, if you look at this, is the sentence that someone sees this self like a wonder, as a wonder. So this is the simple meaning of this sentence. A varu comes that someone sees this self like a wonder. Then again the Ashcharyavat comes here again, like a wonder. Vadati, this is also a simple present tense, third person, singular verb. And root here is vad, means to speak. So because it's a third person singular, it means one speaks. Tatha is indeclinable. It means similarly. Eva, indeed, indeclinable. Cha is and here it's a nominal pronoun, nominative, singular, masculine, and the word here is anya, means another. So similar, indeed, similar in the same manner, another speaks about this self like a wonder. So this is another sentence, and this is the meaning. Like someone sees it like a wonder, another speaks about the self like a wonder. Again, this word Ashcharyavat. Cha is indeclinable, and enam, we have already seen this. Anyaha, also repeating the same word again. Shrunoti, this is also a simple verb form, third person, singular, parasmaipadi. And here the root is shru. Means to hear. So means listens or hearing. So listens. Shrutva, this is indeclinable. So having heard or listened. This is a Jiran participle. So coming from the same root, shru, and when you put twa as the suffix, it becomes an indeclinable, and it means having heard. Like this action happened and then another action happens. Api is also enam. We have seen this word multiple times. Veda, this is a little bit strange kind of verb form. Normally we will not expect this Veda as a verb form, but this is an alternative. So it's a third person singular, parasmaipadi. So generally you will always expect like third person singular having tik as the, but Veda, this is more of a exception, and here the root is ved, to know or to understand. So knows, this is third person singular. Na means not, cha means and, eva means indeed, kaschit, we have seen this word kaschit. So this is, if you look at here, the meaning of this verse would be then, first sentence is, someone sees this self, someone looks at it like a wonder. And indeed, another similarly speaks about it like a wonder. And another listens about it, listens about this self like a wonder. And indeed, some people, even after hearing about this self, know it not, do not understand it, do not know it. That's also a wonder. So much of a wonder about the self. So what happened basically, Lord Krishna gave these teachings to Arjuna about the self. And essentially, he invalidated the very reason for sorrow for Arjuna. That the self is beyond any change, including the death. And the body is always subject to change, including death. So knowing this, there is no reason to sorrow. There is no reason to grieve. And he also told a little bit more about self, that how it is beyond time, beyond space, and something which cannot undergo any change, and it is the one self in all the bodies. So that's how he described earlier. And so many times after describing, he is basically telling Arjuna, look, this being the condition, if you understand this, there is no reason to grieve. And after explaining all those things, it was clear to Lord that understanding which removes the sorrow did not take place for Arjuna. So just to make sure that Arjuna doesn't get disheartened, that I do not understand this, Lord is saying that, look, this is not an easy thing. This is a most wonderful thing. And it's not easy to understand. So you are not an exception, not to be not consider yourself at a fault. It's not like you are dull-witted, that you did not understand. This thing is like a wonder. So this thing is something that it's not comprehensible easily. So thereafter he is saying that some people look at this self like a wonder. So when somebody sees it, that means somebody understands it. It's like a most wonderful thing, because so far I understood myself as a little being, as subject to all sort of sorrow and pain and pleasure, as subject to the birth and death. And now I see the self, myself, as something which is beyond everything, which is like nothing other in this universe. So it's like the wonder of wonders. So someone looks at this self like a wonder. Then another person speaks about it like a wonder. Why does it to be speaking like a wonder? Because there is nothing truly to speak about it. You normally describe something in terms of like something belongs to a category. So if you're describing a person, You describe the person, maybe which country is he from, which caste is he from, man or woman. You could describe a person in terms of the attributes, the qualities. You can describe a person in terms of the actions he performs or she performs. But the self is beyond all these things. It has no attributes, no qualities, no action, doesn't belong to anything, nothing belongs to it. And yet someone can speak about it. That is like a wonder. So one speaks about it like a wonder. And then another hears it, listens this self, hears about this self like a wonder. Because I have never heard such a thing. When somebody first time is being told, that's like, wow, such a thing could exist, such a thing is there, and I am myself that. And that's a wonder. That's a huge wonder that this thing is there. Nothing in anybody's experience can prepare or give a glimpse that there is such a thing. So it's like a most wonderful thing I ever heard about. And then he is saying that having heard, indeed someone even having heard about the self do not understand. So all these things are wonder, and yet after that, so you can take it in the sense that either it is so difficult that having heard about it, one does not get it, which we can easily relate, most of us. But also that this is also a wonder, that how when I tell somebody about oneself and they don't get it. If Lord is explaining about some very abstruse concept, something very far off, then one not getting it is understood that it requires, but one thing talking about person himself or herself and not getting it, that is a wonder. So it's wonderful thing everywhere. Another way to look at this verse is that this is indeed a wonder, like a wonder that somebody is even able to see this. In Lord himself describes later on in Gita that out of thousands, one even tries to walk this path. And out of those people who are walking sincerely on this path, to even find out, to discover oneself, out of those thousands, one may be able to see this self. So that is like a wonder. Out of, if something is achievable by like one among many millions, that is indeed a wonder. So in that sense also, because it is so rare, that if we, and that therefore people flock to those people who they consider as self-realized, because it's a wonder indeed that somebody is able to see that. It's so rare. And that somebody can speak about it, because from the person who has attained the self-knowledge, he sees no differentiation, he sees no sorrow. If somebody comes to him about the sorrows, that person doesn't see it that way. So a person could be describing all sort of sorrows to that person, and that person doesn't see, because in his vision the existence of sorrow is simply gone. The existence of differentiation which causes the sorrow is gone. Yet he, out of compassion, he speaks about it. as if there is a differentiation, as if there is a sorrow to talk about, and as if there is something to assuage the sorrow. And that is indeed a wonder. And then somebody hearing about it is also a wonder, because to get it is said that to find a guru indeed is a difficult thing. It's a wonder. But to find a disciple also, an ideal disciple, is also a wonder. Somebody can hear it, because a person is always thinking oneself as I am a small, I am nobody, I am besought with so many limitations. And master is explaining to him, look, you are that all in all being, nothing exists besides you. And this person is able to listen attentively, listen properly, hear it properly. That is also a wonder. And then, after having heard this, one not understanding, that also happens. And as I said, that is, many of us can relate to that experience, of course, most of us. So it is a wonderful thing. And its Lord is basically saying that this is not easy, despite it being a very wonderful thing. So next verse. So this is the verse number 30. I'll chant one quarter at a time. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehi sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani na tvam shochitum arhasi. Now I'll chant the whole verse together. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehi sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani na tvam shochitum arhasi. So dehi, this is a nominal. Nityam is indeclinable. Avadhya is nominal. Ayam is nominal pronoun. Dehe is nominal. Sarvasya is nominal pronoun. Bharata is nominal. Tasmat is indeclinable. Sarvani is nominal pronoun. Bhutani is nominal. Na is indeclinable. Tvam is a nominal pronoun. Shochitum is indeclinable. Arhasi is the verb. So dehi, this is the nominative, singular, masculine. And here the base word is dehin, means one who has the body. In other words, it's describing the self. the Atman. So this is a suffix in, and Deha, which is, we'll come to that word also later in this verse. Deha means body. So Dehi in this suffix describes the one who has that. So we have like Balin, one who has the strength, Bali, and like that. So it can be used after a lot of nouns, and in this case it is Dehin, and the nominative singular becomes Dehi. That refers to one who has the body or the self. That is, self is having the body. Nityam. Nityam is indeclinable, means ever or constantly. Avadhya. This is nominative singular masculine. So this means one not possible to be killed. Or you can say unassailable. So vadhya, vad means to kill, to hurt. Vadhya means which can be killed. Avadhya means which cannot be killed. A is the prefix which denotes the negation. Ayam, it's a nominal pronoun. Nominative, singular, masculine. And here the form is idam. This word we have seen quite a few times, means this. It's a pronoun. Dehe. This is locative, seventh case, singular. It's neuter. I think it is neuter. It could be masculine. I'll double check. And the word is deha. But both cases the form remains the same. Dehe. Deha means body. So in this, because it's a locative, and here we are having, so in this body, sarvasya, genitive, singular. So sarva is the pronoun. It can come in any gender. So here we can take either masculine or neuter. It doesn't matter. And this is all. So of all, because it's a genitive. So it has the meaning of all. Bharata. This is the vocative case. Singular, masculine, and here the base word is the same. So, O Arjuna, this word also has come many times in our previous verses, that Bharata means the one who is born in the lineage of King Bharata. So there was a very famous King Bharata among Arjuna's forefathers, who started this clan. So everybody belonging to that clan can be addressed as Bharata. So that's what Lord is addressing Arjuna, O Bharata. That means you belong to not an ordinary lineage. You belong to this lineage where King Bharata, who was such a supreme ruler, he took place. So this much of the verse, that self, it is ever unassailable. It is not ever possible for the self to be killed, self to be hurt in this body. So this self, Lord is saying that this self which I have described so far, he is summarizing the teaching so far. So this is that's why I told you this is the last verse of this particular teachings related to the discrimination between the body and the self. Lord starts with this for 20 verses. It started with 211 and now it is concluding in the verse 230 that this self is ever unassailable, is ever not possible to be killed in the body. So in the body, this self is ever unassailable, O Arjuna. So whose body? Everybody's. So not just your body or his body, but in all the bodies, because it is one self. Because Dehi, if you look at, it is in the singular. And here, even though Deha is singular, but because it has been connected with Sarvasya, that means of all. So in all the bodies, or body of everyone, this self, it's not possible to be killed. So, O Arjuna, that's the situation. That's what I have described so far. Tasmat is therefore. It's an indeclinable. Sarvani, this is accusative, plural, neuter, and here it is sarva. It is the, so just like we have banam, vane, banani. If you look at here, I'll just show you. So vanam, vane, vanani. So accusative plural, vanani for the akaranta noun. Similarly, we have here sarvani, akaranta noun. It's a pronoun, but the declinations are same for this particular form. That means all. Sarva means all. Bhutani, this is also the same way. Accusative, plural, neuter, bhuta. Bhuta means being. Na means not. Tvam, this is a nominal pronoun. We have come across this word many times earlier also. So if you look at here, pronoun table, Yushmad. This Tvam, this is the nominative singular. Even though Tvam does not have the masculine, feminine, or neuter, but because it is being referred to Arjuna here, we are saying it is masculine. But it is the common word for no matter whom you are addressing. You. Shochitum, this is Tumun Pratyaya. Those who are studying in Sanskrit class also, they would remember that we studied this suffix, word with this suffix, Tumun. It makes it indeclinable and it becomes the infinitive participle, means to grieve. So shuch is coming from shuch dhatu. Shuch means to grieve and shochitum means to grieve. Arhasi, this is the verb form that also we have seen quite a few times in our Gita classes. It's a present tense, third person, singular. Parasmaipadi. And root here is arha. Meaning is to deserve or to be able to. That means arhasi, deserve, you deserve. or you should not. It also can be, or you are not worthy to grieve. In that sense, it can be used. So here is saying tasmat, therefore, regarding every being, regarding all the beings means every single being, you deserve not to grieve, or you should not grieve. There is no reason for you to grieve. So he is saying that, so far summarizing all the teachings of this section, he is saying, Arjuna, O Bharata, the self is ever unassailable in this body, in the body of all. Therefore, regarding all the beings, there is no reason for you to grieve. You should not grieve. So this is the beautiful conclusion for a section of teachings where our Lord starts with the verse 11. And if you look at verse 11, the very same things he talks about, that if you just look at the meaning, that you grieve over those who should not be grieved for, and yet speak like the learned. Wise men do not sorrow over the dead or the living. That means here Lord is saying that there is no reason for you to grieve, because wise people who understand the truth, they do not grieve over either the dead or living. So and why is that so? Because deha, this body of everybody, is subject to change and death. You can't stop it. There is no way that one can stop the body from approaching the change or death. On the other hand, the self in all these bodies, it's never possible for it to be killed. It can never be annihilated. It can never have any change. So no matter what one does or does not do. So that also is not a matter of grief. So one is the body, which is constantly undergoing change and finally will approach the death. Because you can't do anything about it. You can't stop that process. There is nothing to grieve about it. And the self, if you are grieving about the self, that is also not a subject of grief, because that is never going to undergo any change whatsoever. The same self in all the bodies. Therefore, Arjuna, regarding everybody, so Arjuna was grieving over that if I fight in this war, people will be killed. I may have to fight with my own teachers, Bhishma and Drona, who are very dear to me, and I cannot take that. So therefore, Lord is saying that not just about Bhishma or Drona or anybody, but regarding all the beings, there is no reason for you to grieve. Your grief is not validated. So with this, Lord is concluding the teachings of this section. Now, the one central theme of this section is that you ought not to sorrow. There is no reason for you to be grieving. And Lord takes the standpoint in this section from the body and the indweller of the body, or the self. So one who understands these two things clearly, there is no reason to grieve. And as we see that if Arjuna would have understood these teachings, then Gita would have come to an end, because his problem is resolved. Apparently that didn't happen, and Gita continues. And Lord takes the different standpoints now to somehow explain to Arjuna that, look, there is no reason for you to be sorrowful. And one of the very beautiful sections comes later in the same chapter, is related to Karma Yoga, and also related to the characteristics of a self-realized person. So the second chapter in general is considered the summary of entire Gita. And for me also, it's my favorite chapter. So with this, I'll take the questions. So there is a comment here. Thank you, Swamiji, for your beautiful interpretation. It was wonderful satsang for a few weeks. Please pray for me so that I can understand, practice, and transform my life. I pray for you, and I also ask you to pray for me because I'm also a seeker and I'm also a student at the same time as I take the role of a teacher. There is a question here. It seems like the English translation gives more meaning than the Sanskrit words individual translation gives. Where is the word while appear in Sanskrit? I am not sure where you see the word while. Bill Baba, if you can point out which particular word are you, which particular verse or what the word are you referring to? So sometimes, yes, we do have this English translation to make more sense in English, to introduce some words which are not available from word one-to-one translation, because the languages are never translatable 100%. That will be between any two languages, let alone Sanskrit and English. But if you understand Sanskrit like grammar wise, then without English translation, I mean, it is possible to understand the words beautifully. So, okay, so there is a comment here. Arhasi should be second person singular, correct? That is very correct. Arhasi is actually indeed a second person singular. It's related to Tom because Tom is the second person. So, thank you for pointing it out. So, there is a question here. This is a great session. When do you expect to start the next course? I do not know. I would request all of you to send the email. I want to see how much is the interest in remaining part of the second chapter. We have total 72 verses in this chapter. So we have done 30. So another 42 verses. And if we take at the same speed 2 verses in a day, then we could have that similar. This course was like over 19 classes. So next class, we are still going to have next class where we'll see the summary of from verse number 1st to the verse number 30. And Sanskrit part will not be there in that because we have already covered that. So it will be more of a summary of the entire section of this Bhagavad Gita. For the next course, remaining 42 verses of these chapters, just send us an email. You have that email, learnsanskrit@kriya.org, and based upon the interest, we can float another time, maybe after a month or so. I don't have any particular date in mind for that. So there is a question here. What is the use of the word arhasi in this shloka? Arhasi means to deserve. So arha means to deserve or to be able to. Like if you are able to do something or you deserve for something, that is arhasi. So when Lord is saying that you do not deserve to grieve, it is a little different, that you should not grieve because there is a reason, but just have strength. It's not that. It's that there is no reason to grieve. So there is a fundamental difference here. Lord is saying that the whole existence of your grief is baseless. It is simply out of the ignorance because you do not understand. Not that there is a situation for grieving and then I'm telling you you should not grieve. So that's where the arhasi is coming, just to tell the whole situation that it's not worthy of being grieving over it. So verse number 29, where is the while? I'm not seeing while. So while, where is the word while here? In the English translation, hardly anyone ever perceives the souls as marvelous, scarce another likewise speaks therefore as marvelous, and scarce another hears of it as marvelous, while there are someone. Okay, so while is just to connect the two sentences, because here it is saying that still another, like in that sense, still another having heard about the self, understand it not. And another thing you have to understand between the Sanskrit and English, that it is the poem. Sanskrit is written in the poetry, the Bhagavad Gita. It's a verse. It's not the text. While the translation, of course, we are trying to put it in the text. So that clearly would put another challenge for translating from Sanskrit to English. But if someone understands the Sanskrit, and that's why we are taking this grammatical approach, then at least you can see that how the words along with the grammar is making sense. And if you practice it enough, you would be able to figure out the meaning without even looking at the English translation. So there is an interesting comment here. Namaskar Swamiji. So there is one soul in all human beings. Then there can be no rebirth, as there is only one self which is always there. So the problem, what happens in understanding these things is that if you truly understand this part, then there is indeed no rebirth. If one can truly understand that oneself in all human beings, then indeed there can be no rebirth. And one who thinks that there is a rebirth, then that person needs to contemplate that what is it that is being reborn. So this is more of a question for a contemplation than something that can be told just like this is born and this is not, because the self alone is. It's not a question of that there is only one soul in all human beings, but the self alone is. There is nothing else besides the self. Lord has already told in one of the verses that Sat alone exists and Asat never existed. So from that perspective, forget the rebirth, even the birth also is not justified. So that thing can only be understood truly when you not only understand about the rebirth, but even about the birth, that even the birth is not there. That's what Lord has said, that for the self, the birth or death do not exist. So if you take the birth as real, then there is no escaping from taking the rebirth also as real. To stop grieving for the living, the knowledge of detachment is needed. That is what the wise mastered and what we need to master. Yes, that is true, that a detachment definitely helps. And this knowledge, this self-knowledge, as per the Vedantic scriptures, detachment is one of the prerequisites. That's called vairagyam. That is one of the prerequisites to understand this knowledge. Once this knowledge is attained, then there is no separate effort to have the detachment, because the knowledge alone makes one free from forever from any kind of sorrow. So with this, I would conclude the class, and we will have the last session, that is next Saturday. You will get an email, and that will be summarizing of all what we have studied so far. Thank you. We'll close the class with the prayers. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Thank you, everyone.